inviting me to come on to your show. I told everybody we're gonna come. It's gonna be early in the morning, but we're gonna have some fire and some fresh wind and some fresh fire on here, cause Pauline brings it. You hear what I'm saying? So, like you said, my name is Sha'Meca Latai Oliver. It's Sha'Meca Latai Oliver, and I am the root coach. Okay, I empower women, I empower men to get to basically the root of their issue so that they can be healed and successful in life. And so that they can build a roadmap, spiritually, physically, financially, emotionally, because, that's what we need. We are just not one dimensional or three dimensional. We have so many different things going on in our life, and we just need to be whole, and we need to be healed, and we need to be successful, and we need to be free, girl. Okay? Y'all hear what I'm saying? We need to be free. And so that's where I come in at. And
so tell us how you began. How did you get started?
How did I begin? Well, let's start that I am a native of Chicago, Illinois. Okay, so I'm rocking the East Coast right now.
Okay,
I'm from Chi-Town. Okay, but I've been loving it here. I've been loving the quote unquote country life because I'm a city girl, and so it started there. In Chicago, growing up, and I don't know. It's just really having a heart for God at a young age, not really knowing what God was doing, but just wanting Him. And just going through a lot and trying to hold my family and friends and everybody around me on my shoulders, not knowing that God was transitioning me and building me and transforming me and changing the trajectory of my life as I opened up myself, and like you said earlier, as I surrendered myself unto Him. And so all the things that I went through when I was younger, from just relationships, friendships, really paying attention to it, really being detailed. One of my friends used to say, "Why do you stare at people?" I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to get to know them. But not knowing that God was developing my gift on the inside of me so that I can understand what was going on. But it really gave me an awareness of who people are, how to treat them, how to love them. And I realized that I did it out of my own love language.
Yes.
And so God did that for me. And as I got older, I just wanted to help out people just even more, because I understood the root and the core things of how God was breaking me down to build me up. And I said that, you know what? I cannot leave anybody empty. I cannot leave anybody, just hungry of wanting to know who they were, where they were at, and how they were going to become who God really predestined them to become. And that's not easy. That is very, very difficult, to figure out and to really love yourself first. So all of these things meshed in one became what God did to me. Really got me to the root of my issue so that I can be healed and successful. So I had to deal with some real life stuff here. You hear what I'm saying? Like really being alone and isolated, secluded, so that God could just tear me down. But I was willing. I was surrendered. So when you hear that song by Darius Brooks, Your Will, first of all, he was at my church. We were members together, where I was under fivefold ministry for 11 years there. And so him and Kim Stratton, just all these different people who were there, just helped building the church through music and different things. When he would get up and sing that song, I'm like, yes, your will, God, is what's best for me. And that was my surrender. That has been my surrenderance in my life, saying that, God, your will is going to be what's best for me. So as a single woman, going through relationships, wanting to be loved and finding yourself, and all these things going on in your subconscious, were going on in my subconscious, there was a place in my life where I said, Lord, I don't care what hands touched me. I don't care who I slept with. I don't care the man that I want. I don't care what he looks like. I was at the point, Pauline, I was tired. I was tired of the inner struggle. We can have pain and move through pain and be successful and travel and all those things. But when on the inside, when you're not successful, girl, That's when you really toe up.
Let me tell
That's
you
why we got to
something.
get to the root. Because I would rather be happy on the inside first than look good on the outside. So in 2005, I'm like, God, whatever you got to do. I cannot, it wasn't that I wasn't living with God or for Him, but I knew it had to be better. I knew I had to take the limits off Him. So I told Him to strip me from everything. Then I told Him, I was telling God stuff, girl. Okay? You hear what you ever tell God
She's
stuff?
like, you know what? I'm going to be God right now. God, here's what you going to do.
Right. That's
like
what
you the parent.
Right, that's what it'll sound like. And I was like, God, you gonna do this. I said, everything I want in a man, I don't even want anymore. Everything like career wise, I said, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna do this. And I was like, God, you have to do these things in my life. And if you don't bring him, I don't care. I just want you. So I was willing to once again have his will to be stripped and and just surrender totally unto God. If I would have lost everything in the whole world, all my friends or whatever, Lord, as long as I got you. And so I said, you know what? Man, to some people that might have sound very disrespectful, and then God confirmed. He said, no, you finally spoke what I've already breathed in you. And I believe that's what God wants. He has already breathed something in us that he is waiting for us to say yes to. And so God lined it all up, girl. He lined it all up. And who would have even known 4.5 years later of just me and God, those wilderness moments, those moments where God is pulling me away, from certain people and relationships, that everything that I gave over to him, he gave back to me. And so that's why I'm so passionate about in every area of my life, as a mom, as a wife, as a coach, as a pastor, just recently ordained in June. But I've been having my ministry since 2006. And I just stood away from titles for a long, long time. But, leading this ministry, everything I do is ministry. And God had just led me to show people from what he has given me that you can really truly surrender. You can really truly have God's will for your life, and things will begin to line up. I'm telling you, the peace that surpasses all understanding.
It's real.
It's real, honey. It's real. And one of my friends said a few weeks ago, she sent me a letter in the mail, and she said, Sha'Meca, you know what? Many of us take...
In the mail? Wait, back up.
In the mail. Come on, I know I'm going here.
Go ahead.
She sent me a letter in the mail, and she said, you know what? Many of us take 2 steps forward, but then we also take 4 steps backwards. But when we hear your voice, on your prayer line and things like that, that you help us to get right back to where we need to be. And I'm like, man, that's fuel for fire.
That's powerful.
Like, God, you really did that? Because sometimes I don't see that.
No.
We feel like...
We never see ourselves how other people see us.
Yes. And we do it because...
It's normal. It's natural.
It's natural. It's like, this is
I'm
just what I do.
me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's what God desires for us. To just be ourselves.
To be ourselves.
Not the counterfeit self, but who we were created to be, which is me.
Yeah. And I want to say this, Pauline. It's not easy.
No.
It's not easy. But it's possible.
Yes.
But see, that was years of training and years of being willing to allow God to break my heart for the things that broke his. So when I began to see things, as he began to change the trajectory of my life from being single into being married to him first, committed to him first, I saw life differently. I was able to say no to the things that I used to desire, to the things that I thought that I wanted, but really God gave me everything that I needed. And I'm like, man, it's the difference between a want and a need.
There is. And so I want you right now to share with our listening audience. Shout out to all of you who are listening on Facebook, who are watching, whatever it is, wherever you're at right now, in your car, And if you are just tuning in, I have Sha'Meca Latai. Latte or Latai?
Latte, like the
Latte.
coffee.
Look at that latte. Okay, Latte Oliver. I love that. And so she is actually here at our studio, 89.3 FM, WPFW, and she's talking about her creativity, how she began. She let us know, the things, one of the main ingredients to be able to walk into that creativity, and that is by surrendering your will for God's will. And I want you to just drop, three things. What are three things as a new person who say, you know what, I want to start a podcast. I want to I want to influence people with my voice, with my story, and I really want to be this beacon of light. What do I need to do?
Starting a podcast and really being a beacon of light.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wanted to do that. Um, Release yourself from fear,
Mm-hmm.
number one, because fear holds us back.
Yep.
Um, be bold.
Okay.
Be bold. There's always going to be distractions. There's always going to be someone that's going to that make you feel intimidated,
Mm-hmm.
to do something. But step out and just be bold and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, which is my book, okay, which is called Believe You Can.
Yes.
Getting started and finishing it, whatever it is. If that desire is on your heart to start a podcast, start it and finishing it. Don't just write the stuff down and talk about it, be about it.
Mm.
Get started and finish it. Because once you get started and you finish it, nobody can take that away from you. And you feel so good, you feel empowered, and you feel accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I will add, don't be worried about the numbers.
Yes.
A lot of people get so caught up in how many people are listening. Of course, everybody wants to influence as many people as possible. However, if it's 1 or 99, what do we know about the 99? God desires to save us all. So you can have one listener. And matter of fact, you don't even know who's really watching, real talk. Because after you post it, you share it, then guess what happens? People will always click in to find out what it is you were talking about. And so as a podcaster turned radio host, I can assure
Woo!
that your elevation will come. You know what I'm saying? If you do what she just told you to do, which is believe.
Yes.
And so she's encouraging you, to just be bold, stay focused, okay? And do it. Because if you don't, you will always have this internal struggle, with this creativity. It happens. People go to their graves with this, man, I wish I did.
Yes.
I'm a chaplain, and I sit with,
Yes.
people who are on their deathbed. And one of the things that they talk about are those things that they wish they never did. It's funny how all of those things that come back, and then you hear the stories of, I'm ready to go right now. And I want you to be ready to go right now without any doubt, without any fear that you haven't done enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have actually done what God has called you to do, and you can be at peace with whatever influence you've made. And so you look at celebrities, and everybody want to be a celebrity, right? But man, it comes with a lot. It costs a lot.
Yes.
And so perhaps if you just focus on where you are, God will be able to bring you to where God desires you to be. And it may not be on an international platform. It may
Yes.
just be you where you are in your community. And to me, that is the greatest influence.
Yes.
And so most recently, and I'm putting this out there for you guys because this podcast will be a TV show. And so I can only give glory and honor to God for making that possible when it comes, and it's coming soon. And you just never know. You just never know whose life you're going to touch. And so, Sha'Meca, I want you to tell us about a time you talked about do not be afraid. Tell us about a time when things were not so successful, because I have this thing called the failure free zone. And the failure free zone is your opportunity to share a time when things weren't so successful. Because when people hear those stories, I believe in storytelling, they get inspired. They're like, wow, if she went through this, this, and this and still persevered, then maybe I can do it too.
Oh, wow. And you know what? I really look at life as I always just make sure that I'm learning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've had so many difficult times that I can talk probably about 20 of them. But one of the, if I would relate it to just building, the best person and really like the coaching aspect that I do and just reaching people. There was a time in my life where I talked about it, and many people know about this, where I met a young lady who we were friends, right? And I always loved my man, okay? And I never thought that I can get hurt by a girl, because females are always friends.
Mm-hmm.
Hear me out. And I trust her as a friend. I opened myself up, communicating and trusting her advice and different things like that. And then there was a time when I started to get hurt, and it was God-based, Christian-based relationship, and some days we would be there and she'll be laying hands on me with the organization that I was with, and I'll get a phone call later on that day basically saying, you're still in my ideas, you're doing this and you're doing that. And I was still trusting her as a friend at the same time. So I would run to my mom in tears and saying, man, Mom, she's saying this and she's saying that. And there was a part of me from my mom, God would send someone, and he would send someone to say, it's time to let the friendship go.
Mm.
And I kept with the friendship.
Kept holding on.
I kept holding on because I saw, sometimes you can see the success in someone.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the greatness in them, even in the midst of you getting hurt. And I thought, as a young lady who, dated men,
Mm-hmm.
that I can only get hurt by a guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't recognizing that this was really breaking me down. So for 3 years of my life, I was literally depressed, still moving and operating and being successful. I traveled. I did a 36-city tour in Europe at this time, and was still feeling lonely and hurt because I trusted this individual so much. And when I came back, I was like, I have to let go. But I didn't know how. So I stayed on for a little longer. I went to my mom's room and I was crying. I was so hurt. She's been telling me to let go for 3 years already.
Mm.
And I walked out of my mom's room. I went into her room, and all of a sudden, I heard the audible voice of God saying, while you were playing God in her life, she was playing the devil in yours.
Mm.
And I broke down crying. I broke. But then that's what broke me, literally. Like, God was sending my mom the whole time, because I wasn't releasing it even to the people that we were around. And I let it go. I had to quit this organization. I just had to release myself from it all. God's will once again, right?
Telling you.
But how he waits faithfully for us, like even when we're unfaithful, he's like faithful to us, that never leave you and never forsake you. It's like so real. And I literally felt like I was dying, The depression was so heavy. And so one day I called her because, when you have an alt against your brother, you have to talk to them first, before you talk to God. That's what the word says. So I called her like, why did you? I said, all these years, all this is and that. And she said, you know what? God told me to ask you for forgiveness. And I said, I've already did it. I said, it's done. But why did you do it? Because I had to release myself during that time. And she said, you know what? You're the only one. She said, I've did this to many of my girlfriends, but you're the only one who stuck by me all this time. And she said, everything that you went through, I wanted you to go through. Like, I wanted you to feel pain. I wanted you to be depressed and all that. But what God taught me was total forgiveness. Literally, total forgiveness. Because I still friend her, but it was at a different level. I still loved her because I still saw the greatness that was on the inside of her, but at a different level. And that's how I know total forgiveness can happen. When you see someone who has crushed you down to your bones, and you can still say, God, but still bless her. You can see someone struggle and still want them to be successful.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, we can go on and on and on, but our time is coming to a close. Sis, how do we keep in touch with you?
Well, definitely you can follow me on all social media outlets at I am Sha'Meca Latai.
Spell your name, girl.
I am SHAMECA LATAI. And that's on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. My website is iamsha'mecalatai.com. That's on there. So, and on Facebook also is under Sha'Meca Oliver. But if you type in I am Sha'Meca Latai, that it will come up also.
That is, okay, so y'all got that? It's IAMSHAMECA LATAI. And so you want to connect with her. She is a bad sister, okay? And this is just her beginning. I pray before every person that I ask to come on the show. It's not a free-for-all. There are people who will reach out and say, hey, look, I want to come. And it's not that time just yet, And so it was perfect timing. I would say, how we met was perfect timing. She's a beautiful daughter who's called me her bestie.
Yes.
And so, we're queens. We are reigning queens. And so her daughter and I. And I'm just like, I love her. And I'm like, your mom is the bomb. And she just gave this, just this warmth of her presence. And so get connected with her. And as I close out, I want you guys to remember the things that she talked about. Remember and know her name, okay? And be free to share your stories because you just don't know who or how it will bless them. And so as we are closing out this segment, up next we have, we have Tasha Cobbs and Your Spirit.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love it. I love it.
No matter what the problem, we gon' make it. Cause he made us. We were born to be exceptional. No lesser than born to be